A few months back, Erick, Maybury and I decided that a session together was long overdue. Spending some time bankside behind the lens of a camera sounded like a great idea. It would be an opportunity to capture the beauty of the great state of Texas, its wildlife and scenery, a perfect backdrop for telling the tale of a special fish. In a state where the weather can change on a dime, we were able to experience both the power and serenity of a complete weather cycle within 24 hours. It's something that you need to prepare for in advance in Texas, as it will change from winter to summer overnight. And so what started off as a last resort location from a coin toss ended up being the luckiest outcome that we could have hoped for. I was going to get there a good day before Erick to scope out the lake, bait up the swim, and wait for his arrival. I think for most anglers, when you're fishing a new water, a new swim, there's always that presence of the unknown factor there, and it builds for some great anticipation. We would fish in about 16 feet of water at a break line on the lake bed where the topography changed. It seemed like a natural feeding spot for any fish that moved into the bay. And if the fish came in, they would be in a large shoal. This particular lake was known for days of nothing, and then large shoals moving into the bay, completely ignoring any bait that was presented. And so a good food source and a large bed of bait was necessary to hold them in the swim as they were moving through. Canoes and markers are probably the best way to get the job done on a water of this size. They're really efficient and you can cover a lot of water in a short amount of time. I love this shot of Erick capturing the bait going out. It's one of my favorites, using a 200mm Nikon lens. I think it captures every detail. The conduit markers are great, not only for fish safety but for visibility in the low light in the mornings and the evenings. It took about 12 hours for the shoal to arrive, and to start with they didn't feed, and then it started. This run for Erick came out of nowhere. It was a still, calm, hot afternoon, and then his rod just screamed off. A small but welcome fish to start the session, and we were both grateful of his presence.
Beautiful fish.
You want to slide her back?
Yeah.
It wasn't long before the shoal found the bait, and once in the swim, we were lucky enough to hold them for 24 hours. The sunset on the first night was incredible, and it really set the tone for us for the entire session. It was a quiet evening, and we sat talking into the darkness and catching up on things. Then at about 4 a.m, things started to happen.
Cut's probably just whatever it's at.
I hadn't seen a fish of this size for a good few years and had no idea what the weight of it would be when we first looked at it. But the build on this fish for the USA told us it was something special. Not being one to put too much emphasis on the weight of a fish, it ended up being something really special. The next morning we marvelled at the really heavy cloud cover, which proved to be the perfect backdrop for some pictures of this magnificent fish. If Barnaby is ever recaptured, it shouldn't be too hard to identify the fish. If you look closely at the lateral line on the fish on the right flank, there is just one scale that's out of place. It's discoloured, kind of like a reverse negative effect. We've included here some previously unreleased shots and footage of the fish that we affectionately named Barnaby, after a television series detective. This is probably one of my favourite shots. The angles are unique and I think the picture captures everything about that special session in just one frame. All photography was shot on a Nikon D750 with either a fixed Nikon 50mm or 200mm lens, and there's also a fixed manual 135mm Nikon film lens, all natural light with no flash.
Typically do this, but worthy. So worthy.
Support the future of our sport in the USA by becoming a member of the American Carp Society and join us to create the change.